Good afternoon. I apologize for that. Again, this is Robert T. Green, the CEO of Pre-Post Game, also known as a player to educate and empower and protect the athletes and the family's best interests alone. I had to take care of some things because it's kind of raining out here where we at, and I just got a little off track. But I want to address this matter because I had a media member reach out to me, and his name is Rob Howe from Iowa. So before I get back to what I was saying, and for those of you who haven't seen, I just responded to him. And normally I don't respond to people on social media and certain things because, again, when I put things out there, it's not really for up to debate. Doing my job is my job, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. But in particular, the statement that he made, and I want all these athletes and parents, again, going forward, if you're talking about how things happen in life and how society and media in general, and a lot of these people want to act like that because you didn't have a first name or a first-hand basis of that person, that your story is not valid and you want to dismiss it or disparage it in certain ways. For a former athlete, especially collegiate, there's over 100 players on every team. I'm going to admit, I played on teams that I did not know every player on that team. Some guys have reached out to me over the past and say, I played with you in such and such year. I'm like, oh, yeah? Then I try to remember. The first thing I asked is, what number did you wear? Then a lot of those guys that was on that roster, their numbers are like doubled. A lot of those guys are on that actual roster that's preferred walk-ons or just walk-ons in general, because what the NCAA and these coaches don't tell you, that they actually bring on certain guys that are really brainiacs. They don't come to practice every day. They don't have the same experience as most of those guys is playing on that 46 to 52 man, the two deep, as you will, on game day. But at the same time, I know there's been times, and I've been witness to teams of mine, for the guys that were on this quote-unquote scout or practice squad in college, they got hell. They wasn't the biggest guys. They were just trying to get along and certain things. And I've seen those guys get bullied. And I obviously, in my lifetime, when I seen those things, I will say I was the first person to check those people when those things happen. And again, if anybody knows my teammates and knows how things went, you've never seen me basically attempt to bully anybody. But you also know that I'm not going to be bullied by the players, by the coaches, by anybody. Again, I know my worth, and I know what I mean to the team, and I know what I mean to myself. So that was never going to happen. But I've always been an advocate for those people. So responding again to that gentleman that basically said, because he haven't heard of that person, that because this person reached out to me to explain to me that he was terrified in these certain areas, that because you wasn't a known name, that I'm supposed to dismiss this as he wasn't actually there. That's a joke. And again, like I told them in that actual post and response, is that since you covered the team since 1997, did you basically cover any of these racial disparities going on with these actual athletes? Did you cover how many athletes over the last 10 years transferred out of the University of Iowa that happen to be African American? Did you cover all 100 players about their experience at actual Iowa? This is what systemic racism looks like. This is what oppression looks like. Because again, it's like the man said, whether it was true, which he had no reason to reach out to me because that's what he did. But to state these things and not actually really ask yourself, well, I don't know who he is, versus saying, well, over 60 guys already came out right now. Let me basically find out why these guys are saying it. Like, they got no other business to do but to talk about things that they went through. They created horrific memories and situations that there was no fault of theirs. You want to talk about a guy that you haven't heard of or haven't covered, but not basically say, why does your coach put out players that's 3 players on the actual active roster versus putting out Brian Ferentz while putting out Chris Doyle? If that's what you want to cover, then you cover that. But I'm not interested in basically going back and forth and explaining myself to you. I'm not interested in going back and forth and think that what you're saying to these athletes and these families is validate anything. Again, it's their life, it's their experience. They're the reason why Iowa, again, in the scenario where they are in. And again, you tell me. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I know this. If I went somewhere and I played somewhere or I coached somewhere for 21 years and my greatest attribute is going to one Rose Bowl with a loss, the head coach decides to pay me $800,000 and make me the highest paid strength coach in the country. That's what you call smart? Again, trust the facts, not the process. So why is he paying that man $800,000 a year? With his greatest no attribute now is being a racist and abusing black athletes. So like I said, at the end of the day, this is not going to be tried on the terms of social media, what people's opinions are, who you know, who you do not know. It's going to be tried on the facts. So once again, if you don't like the fact what that young man said and you don't remember him, then you go seek him out. But please don't come looking for me talking about what you don't remember as something I'm supposed to actually acknowledge as factual. It's never going to happen. What the facts are, what I've spoken to and who I've spoken to, and when the young men and the families asked me and hired us to be the representation to speak on their behalf, that's exactly what we're going to do. No more, no less. I'm not asking you to like it. I'm not asking you to accept it. I'm not asking you to share it. I'm not asking you to rewrite it. I'm not asking a worldwide leader to do it either. If we look at behind me right now, if you talk about what's going on, I mentioned earlier a video about Missouri and the kids that basically decided not to play until that president resigned in 2016. You would think with all these things that are going on, systemic racism and oppression, that their top headlines would not be something about a grad transfer coming from Alabama. But it goes to show you exactly what their actual thought process is, what matters to them most. Oh yeah, the uninformed mind and the broken body is what we basically been made our living off for our entire career. And that's unfortunate. But like I said, when all this stuff is done, like I said, not just at Iowa, but in the NCAA and these coaches, period, they will understand. The next time that you decide to put your hands or your whatever on these athletes, that doesn't matter if you're black, white, yellow, or green. When you overstep your bounds as a person because an athlete is trying to basically achieve his goals and his dreams to be a professional athlete, when he comes to school to get an education and you want to put him in a general studies class in Iowa instead of letting him go and apply for engineering, cover that, sir. Cover that. Cover that why that your African-American athletes are transferring because the education they thought they were getting they're not getting at the University of Iowa. Cover that. Again, reality is that when it comes to this whole system of the systemic oppression in the NCAA on how much money they've raised and continue to make based off the backs of these African-American athletes, without basically having a justification of why they do certain things, is why the kids at UCLA is saying that we don't trust the system, we don't trust the NCAA, we don't trust the media coverage that basically to show what it is that actually going on here. You guys want to talk about Mike Gundy and he's talking about his OAN shirt. Justice Hill for the Baltimore Ravens, a former Oklahoma State Cowboy, the other athlete that spoke out and said the change need to come from the top. They're not speaking out on Mike Gundy's OAN shirt. Again, everybody that got something to say, you would swear they were smarter than they really, think they are. Why didn't you ask them why they said they needed change? Change for what? Why didn't you ask Kirk Ferentz, Mr. Howard, what change that Kirk Ferentz is going to make? What needs to be changed? When that young man sat there and said that he can now walk and look over his shoulder and feel better, what did he mean by that? Again, don't talk to me about covering anything. I'll let you know what's going to be covered because I'm speaking on behalf of the athletes and the families. So now that I addressed that, I'm going to get back to what I was saying on where we are right now pertaining to the NCAA and just in general as a whole. And I'm going to go over to the NIL for many things that people don't know and understand as they continue to try to figure out a way to downplay what they want to do. Obviously, the NCAA asked the Congress to step in regarding a bill for name, image, and likeness. And again, if you guys don't know me, and welcome to the Robert T. Green page, the Players Rep, also known as the CEO pre-post game, here to educate and empower, protect the athletes and the family's best interests alone. So one of the key matters, and I'm going to be speaking on this, the pay for play, if you will, or the SB 206 Act coming up in a couple of days, is that it's one thing for the athlete to say that, all right, I'm going to get paid now. But once again, if you look at all the NCAA or the school, universities, avatars, they are purposely taking down all of their different players that they used to make money off of name, image, and likeness. Why are they doing that? It's going to make it extremely difficult for the players to understand how to basically build their own brand to get compensated for what they and who they are. Secondarily speaking, when you talk about the schedule that you have in college and talking about getting paid, how is an athlete actually going to go about doing that? If the NCAA is trying to get Congress to make it where you now have a licensing agreement where, for example, let's say I am Trevor Lawrence and I generate $5 million. NCAA and their powers to be and their commissions to try to make it where that $5 million is Trevor Lawrence, generated, that now have to be split amongst the 500,000 student athletes, including Title IX in that standpoint, which would give me a grand total check based on my name, image, and likeness, probably $5.99. There's no athlete in the world who's going to take the time to go about doing that. So now you want to discourage that. That's one factor. Second factor, you can give an athlete money all day long, but the sports traffickers that surround the people that's there to take advantage of them. Once again, if an athlete don't understand business, and which we teach at pre-post game, as you see behind, you have questions, we have answers. We created this curriculum basically to teach you all those things. That first topic up right here, that says personal finance. And that's going to teach the athletes actually how to go about their business and creating the infrastructure, LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, how you go about doing that, pensions, and all these different things that you can create to basically build those things. Secondarily, how do you build your brand? You're talking about websites and things of that nature. Not understanding how all these things factor in, whether it's intellectual property training, trademarking your name, GoDaddy things. There are people in this business that know when first these kids come out, their name might be worth $7.99 on GoDaddy, but they'll go snatch them up And basically, once they get them, and then the kid's all of a sudden now ready to get a website, he can't get it anymore unless he has to buy it back to somebody between $5,000 and $10,000. NCAA is not teaching you that. We teach you that over here pre-post game. How to protect your intellectual property and also brand and do so certain things, whether it's classification. So what do you want to basically, once you trademark your name, do you want to do things such as educational purposes? You want to do, for example, class 25 when it's hats and t-shirts and socks and sales. All those things we teach over here pre-post game in our digital curriculum activity. None of this stuff has been talked about pertaining to the NCAA outside of paying the players. Some other topic, taxes. You got players from all across the country, and at the end of the day, they don't understand the tax code where they live at. And for that reason and that reason alone, how they basically at 17, 18 not going to be in a situation where they're going to end up going through tax evasion possibly. None of these things are going to be done. So as they say, the NCAA says, oh, we need a third-party representation. Well, you should know we are the third-party representation. We are not affiliated with anyone in the NCAA pertaining to anything whatsoever. Again, when you talk about paying the players and the ones that can make decisions on doing things on their own, you talk about insurance as well as PTD, loss of value. The fact of the matter is no different than when you buy a house in real estate. You have a seller and you have a buyer, but both of them have brokers where they get paid. So, for example, the NCAA now has an actual insurance broker that they want to basically provide to actually get these things done for the actual athlete. Well, now the athlete has to act in his own business interest. Again, whether you use a student athletic fund to actually pay for this, then that third party, say us in particular, and we basically say, okay, we're going to utilize this coverage. This is what the athlete needs to cover his interest in that standpoint. Then that student athletic fund should be going towards that actual athlete's representation to pay for that because they're the one generating the revenue anyway. But who's going to tell the athlete that? Who's going to represent and basically put those things in place? We know it's not the NCAA. We know it's not the universities. We definitely know it's not the athletic directors because they're already saying right now that they're upset that the athletes might cost them some money, but even though without the actual athlete, there will be no athletic director position. Just the facts, not the process. And again, those are some of the main things that go along with that from that standpoint. So again, not understanding pensions, not understanding how to basically go about, like I said, filing certain things and certain criterias is all the things that none of these athletes in their general study courses that they claim that they're teaching these athletes are getting, even though all of them are going to the actual school to seek to become professional athletes. The sports game is over now. You no longer play the game. Transition succession. What are you going to do with that piece of paper, general studies degree you got from such and such university? You're going to do absolutely nothing. You're going to end up going back to that university and be a grad assistant and have them basically coach your team up now for free as a former alumni. This happens all over the country. So going back to that reporter about what he's covering, you really should cover what's actually going on versus what you think and what you hope to know. Again, we'll let you know again how this actually works if you want to. If you want to take the time and have a real conversation about what it is, and if you want to, I'm not asking you to. Bring me on your actual show, and I'll give you some information that you might not know or understand to educate and empower, protect you in this sports business that you want to cover these athletes in. But yeah, so that's what it is. Systematic oppression, racism. It's been known and it's been part of the NCAA for over the last 150 years. And so when you have situations at Clemson, whether it's football matters, whether you have situations in Oklahoma State where it's OAN, that's not the process. It's the same situation when you're talking about Iowa, talking about blind spots, all these different things that are basically what we call coach speak to try to get out for the fact what's actually going on is what the problem is in this situation. But like I said, again, we're here to make sure that the actual athletes and the parents' voices are going to be heard on their time and their way. It's not going to be anybody else's 15-minute documentary. It's not going to go away. Again, when we decide how we want to move forward and when we move forward, that's going to be up to us and only us. And again, so thank you guys for listening in right now. This video educated, empower, protect you anyway. Please like and share. My name is Robert T. Green, the CEO of Pre-Post Game, here to educate, empower, protect the athletes and their family's best interests alone. And again, parents, if you know and you think that your son or daughter might be applicable for this NIL next year, we strongly advise you to contact us and understand how to do what you got to do to educate yourself. God bless and be well.